In this Podsat episode, Ben Shapiro discusses the potential for a significant economic transformation in the Western world, particularly in the United States, if capitalism is re-embraced. He highlights the unsustainable levels of national debt, which have reached nearly $37 trillion, primarily driven by welfare programs. Shapiro argues that the U.S. must undertake serious restructuring and cuts to spending while simultaneously unleashing market forces to stimulate economic growth. He contrasts the current economic stagnation forecasted under President Joe Biden with the potential for a market explosion if these changes are implemented. Shapiro draws parallels between the current economic situation in the U.S. and historical examples, particularly Chile in the 1970s. He recounts how Chile, under the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet, implemented supply-side economic reforms with the help of economists from the Chicago School, leading to significant economic growth. He cites Milton Friedman's observations on the success of these reforms and suggests that similar principles could be applied in the U.S. today. He also points to Argentina, where President Javier Milei has initiated radical economic reforms to combat hyperinflation and budget deficits. Shapiro notes that Milei's approach, which includes strict fiscal balance and deregulation, has garnered attention and admiration from American conservatives, including figures like Donald Trump and Vivek Ramaswamy. This shift in Argentina is seen as a precursor to potential economic reforms in the U.S., as it demonstrates the effectiveness of market-oriented policies in reversing economic decline. Shapiro emphasizes the importance of unleashing the power of the market to increase tax revenue and support government spending. He discusses the positive reaction of the business market to Trump's election, suggesting that a return to pro-business policies could lead to unprecedented economic growth. He highlights the efforts of figures like Elon Musk and Ramaswamy, who are advocating for government efficiency and restructuring to promote economic growth. The podcast also touches on the challenges posed by overregulation and government targeting of successful businesses, particularly Musk's companies, SpaceX and Tesla. Shapiro argues that the current administration's attempts to undermine Musk are indicative of a broader anti-business sentiment that stifles innovation and economic progress. Shapiro critiques the mainstream media's role in shaping public perception of economic policies. He argues that the media has become a propagandistic arm of the Democratic Party, supporting failed economic policies while suppressing dissenting viewpoints. He cites examples of studies on diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs that have been buried by major media outlets, suggesting that this reflects a broader trend of ideological bias that undermines journalistic integrity. He also discusses the media's failure to report on the negative consequences of government spending and inflation, likening it to a person jumping from a high building and claiming everything is fine until they hit the ground. This analogy underscores the disconnect between media narratives and the lived experiences of ordinary Americans facing economic challenges. Shapiro examines the current state of the Democratic Party, noting a growing divide between progressive and moderate factions. He highlights the recent embrace of the filibuster by some Democrats, contrasting it with their previous calls to eliminate it. This shift indicates a recognition of the need for institutional stability, especially as the party faces potential losses in upcoming elections. He also discusses the implications of Trump's return to power, suggesting that his administration could lead to a significant shift in U.S. foreign policy, particularly regarding Israel and its ongoing conflict with Hamas. Shapiro posits that Israel's recent decision to pursue a temporary ceasefire is a strategic move to buy time until Trump is back in office, at which point they expect a more supportive U.S. administration. The podcast touches on NATO's call for businesses to prepare for a wartime scenario amid rising tensions with Russia. Shapiro emphasizes the importance of economic resilience in the face of geopolitical threats, urging Western nations to reduce reliance on adversarial powers. He also discusses the evolving situation in Ukraine, where British and French troops may be deployed to deter Russian aggression. Shapiro argues that this reflects a broader recognition among European allies of the need to take responsibility for their own security, particularly as the U.S. political landscape shifts.